Immigrants are not the problem, Mr. President, they are part of the solution. Ibrahim Traoré's voice was steady, yet a surge of emotion roared beneath the surface. As the words left his mouth, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. It was a confrontation unlike any the world had ever seen. Introduction and setup. The world had been waiting for this moment. A summit of the highest order, diplomatic leaders from across the globe gathering to discuss the future of international relations. Yet no one could have predicted that the greatest tension would arise not from the issues at hand, but from a single statement. Ibrahim Traoré stood at the podium, his eyes steady, reflecting the weight of his nation's aspirations. The room was vast, filled with well-dressed figures sitting in carefully arranged seats, their murmurs quiet, but the air thick with anticipation. Outside, the faint sound of protest could be heard. The world was watching, and so was history. On the other side of the room, U.S. President Donald Trump sat with a stern expression, his posture rigid, almost mechanical. The two men had met before, but this was different. This was not a simple meeting. This was the clash of ideologies, the collision of worlds. Traoré's words echoed in the hall. Immigrants are not the problem, Mr. President. His voice grew stronger, cutting through the tension. They are part of the solution. This $1,000 plan you've proposed. This is not the path we need to take. This is a symbol of division, not unity. The shock in the room was palpable. It was as if time had stopped. The world's leaders looked at one another, unsure of what to make of the bold declaration. The $1,000 proposal had been President Trump's latest policy, an offer to pay immigrants a lump sum to leave the country voluntarily. It was a move designed to reduce the immigration crisis, but to many, it seemed like a slap in the face to those seeking refuge and opportunity. Traoré's presence was magnetic. His reputation as a leader of unwavering resolve had preceded him, but it was in this moment that his true power was revealed. He had been invited to this summit as a voice for Africa, for the voiceless. And now, his words were piercing the heart of global politics. Conflict or challenge introduced. Trump's face hardened, and the room filled with a charged silence. For a moment, no one moved. His usual defiant smile was absent, replaced with something more dangerous, something cold. Mr. Traoré, Trump began, his tone clipped. You don't understand the situation. We've been overrun. The system is broken and the American people need their country back. The tension thickened. The rest of the world watched as Traoré stood his ground. The air in the room felt heavy with the weight of his decision. He had known this moment was coming, the inevitable clash with Trump's ideology. But he had not prepared for the anger he now felt. His words were not just a defense of his beliefs. They were a defense of every immigrant, every person who had crossed borders in search of a better life. The American people. Traoré's voice was quiet, but every word was sharp. What about the world? What about the people who have nothing to come to but the hope of something better? You are not protecting your country, Mr. President. You are isolating it. The silence that followed was broken only by the distant hum of the world outside, the protests, the cries for justice, the demand for a different kind of leadership. Midpoint revelation or twist. Just as the atmosphere reached its peak, a reporter, A.E. Daze, young woman from the back of the room, stood up. Her question was calm, but her eyes were fierce. Mr. Traoré, what would you propose instead of this payment plan? She asked. Traoré turned to her, his eyes momentarily softening. This wasn't just about policy, it was about humanity. I would propose that we build a world where immigrants aren't seen as a problem to be solved, he said, his voice strong but gentle. I would propose a world where they are seen for what they truly are, creators, innovators, survivors. We need solutions, not separation. What we need is collaboration. The room fell into an even heavier silence, and for a moment it felt as though the very earth itself had paused, waiting for the world's next step. But then something unexpected happened. Trump, who had been bracing himself for an argument, paused. His face softened for the briefest moment and his eyes wandered toward the floor. For the first time, the walls around him seemed to crack. Was this a sign of vulnerability, or was it simply the recognition of a deeper truth? Climax. Emotional breakthrough. A few moments later, Traoré stood tall once more. He spoke not just to Trump, but to the world. Every immigrant has a story, a family, a dream, a hope, and you ask them to leave for $1,000. This is not just about politics, this is about dignity. It's about standing for what's right, no matter the cost. The room was silent, so still that the faint sound of a clock ticking could be heard. Then Trump stood up. For a moment it seemed like he might challenge him again, but instead he spoke, his voice unusually quiet. "You speak with conviction, Mr. Traoré. I haven't heard that in a long time." The air in the room shifted, a sudden and powerful tension breaking into a strange, unspoken understanding. The two men stood across from one another, not as enemies but as leaders facing the stark reality of their worlds. A world where nations would be forced to choose, to isolate or to unite. Resolution and quiet closure. The summit concluded quietly. The grand speeches, the agreements, the signatures, they all seemed distant now, irrelevant in the face of what had just transpired. It wasn't the agreements that mattered. It was the shift that had occurred in the hearts of those present. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft glow over the city, Traoré walked alone through the hallways of the grand building. His heart was heavy, but there was a strange sense of peace within him. He had done what he had come to do. He had spoken truth to power, and for the first time in a long while, he felt a glimmer of hope for the future. Call to action. If this story touched your heart, consider subscribing for more inspiring tales of hope, healing, and unexpected kindness. Hit the like button and share this with someone who needs it today.